We are here, book club hosted by Heather Skinner. We get this awesome opportunity to have Valerie Taylor back with us. We read What's Not Said in May, actually.
May.
The members voted in this read in May, and I loved reading and reviewing that one. And then we're here to celebrate her latest release, the sequel, What's Not True. Love it. Try to
Wow,
make sure you
love
can
it.
well.
Yeah.
Yes, there we go. And that launched on August 24th. So it's still launch celebration time. And I'm so glad that I'm
Yay.
here. Congratulations on your launch. And thank you so much for being here again with us,
Oh,
Valerie.
I love being here. I love being here.
And we love having you here. I'm so excited we get to talk with you again about it. And then I want to go ahead and read a brief bio because we do have new members that have come in since May too. So this might be their very first introduction to you. So I will read. You, Valerie Taylor, are an award-winning author. You were born and raised in Stamford, Connecticut, and you earned your Bachelor of Science in a Bachelor of Science marketing degree, an MBA from Sacred Heart University, as well as a graduate certificate in healthcare administration from Simmons University in Boston. And she also had a 30-year career in the financial services industry as a marketer and writer. And Valerie is a published book reviewer with booktrib.com and a member of Westport Writers Workshop, Independent Book Publishers Association, and Women's Fiction Writers Association. She also enjoys practicing Tai Chi and being an expert sports spectator. I love it. You keep so busy. I don't know how you do it all.
Well, if there were more than 24 hours in a day, I'd probably use them up, as most people would. So we're lucky that it's only 24. But thank you, Heather and Deb, for being here. And I hope that people, once you post this on YouTube and in your wonderful book club group, will watch it and learn about what's not true and all the good things that we're going to talk about. So I thought maybe I would just give a brief summary of the two books. First, What's Not Said was published a year ago, September 15th, and it's doing very well. I say I'm getting a mini following, which is very exciting. People were really looking forward to What's Not True, and now I'm hearing they're looking forward for the next in the series. So in What's Not Said, it features a woman named Cassie O'Callahan, who has stayed in her 30-year emotionally abusive marriage well past its expiration date, I like to say. And as she's about to cut the ties that bind and run off with a younger man that she met on a solo vacation to Venice, she discovers her husband, Mike, has a life-threatening illness. And then with her divorce plans derailed once again, she's forced to decide whose life to save, her husband's or her own. So those that have read that know what she decided. And then in What's Not True, Cassie shifts her attention away from the two men in her life and commits to reviving her career, a stalled marketing career. But after a chance meeting with a colleague in Paris this time and a stroll along Pont Neuf, she receives two compelling proposals. Before she can grab the gold ring and have it all, Cassie must fight to protect what's legally and rightfully hers. And I like to say, in time, she discovers that sometimes it's what's not true that can set you free. So that's a real short snippet, if you will. That's kind of redundant, isn't it? Of both books. So thank you for allowing me to do that.
Thank you.
And both books are published by She Writes Press, which is a hybrid publisher, but it's available everywhere in paperback and eBooks. So
perfect. I love it. It brings me back. Like I want to go back and reread them now, hearing like the reminders of everything. I had so much fun reading them. And I'm definitely one of the people excited for book 3. I can't wait.
Yay!
Yay. So I have a bunch of questions for you.
Okay,
And Deb, I'm so happy you're here. And if other people trickle in, maybe while we're going, I mean, you can put a question in the chat at any time if you have any as well. And we can start talking about favorite songs if you'd like to. So I love
sure.
your idea, Valerie, to build this really awesome opportunity, the first ever Valerie Taylor book club hosted by Heather Skinner playlist. This is so fun. Um,
Yeah,
I love it. So Deb, if you want to pop in the chat or unmute at any time and tell us your favorite song, I would love it. That would give you an opportunity to be entered into Valerie Taylor's awesome giveaway. Did you want to talk about that?
sure. So I had this notion a couple of weeks ago because in other sessions that Heather and I have had, I've done giveaways of the books, and so I thought, that's not going to be very effective. And I have a playlist at the end of each of the books, and so I thought, as I go around Facebook and do different takeovers and interviews and everything, I thought, wouldn't it be fun to create playlists for those groups? And so Heather's one of the first ones that I am doing. And I think even though we don't have a big group here tonight, I think maybe tomorrow we could put out a post that give people like till Saturday
Okay.
to tell us what their favorite song is, and then we'll put all of those names in a hat, if you will, and have Gemma, Heather's daughter, pull the winner of a $25 gift card.
Yes.
So
I will add it as we go. Gemma was really excited. She's like, here's the container that I want to use,
I love
Mommy.
that.
So she made sure I had it in time for the interview.
Yeah.
So I'll add them as we go today.
So Heather, do you want to tell us what your favorite song is?
It is so hard to pick one, isn't it? Like, I don't know.
Mhm.
But I did think about it. I love all kinds of music. I love some pretty eclectic stuff. I love Regina Spektor. I love musicals. But ultimately, I think I'm kind of stuck in the 90s. So I think I have to go with like a Matchbox 20 Rob Thomas song. I'm going to go with Hold On Forever by Rob Thomas when he kind of went on his own.
I can't wait to, because, I'm sure I won't even know a lot of these younger songs, but that's great. So Deb, do you want to unmute and tell us your favorite, or put it in the chat, or?
Yeah, definitely. We invite you to let us know however's comfortable for you. Let us know your favorite song, because I'd love for you to have your opportunity into the giveaway and to be part of the playlist, because I think this is so cool. And Gemma also told me her favorite song is Mickey Mouse Clubhouse theme song.
Oh, I like that too.
It's catchy.
I like that too. It is.
Valerie, I've got to know. I think you were starting to stump some of our members too, because you posted a GIF about it, and you're like, I hope you know who this is.
Oh.
Is it your favorite song?
No, but well, you know who that is.
You know what? I'm with Bonnie on that one. I'm so sorry. I feel like I
don't
should know. Oh my
That's
God.
It's George Harrison.
Okay, I thought, but I wasn't sure. I'm like, I feel like I should know who this is.
Yeah, George Harrison, the Beatles. Well,
Okay.
I love all the Beatles songs, but my favorite song is, so I'm dating myself. It's Will You Love Me Tomorrow by the Shirelles.
Aww.
And I think it's in What's Not Said playlist.
I was going to ask you if you had it in one of the playlists in your books already, your favorite.
Yeah, I am sure that the majority, not everyone, but the majority of the songs that are in here, Will You Love Me Tomorrow is in there.
Oh,
also, Run Around Sue is one of my favorites. All in Love is Fair. I mean, I could just go on, but so most of the songs in the playlist I love, but when I really come down to it, it's Will You Love Me Tomorrow? And oh,
You
Deb
serious?
says Cats in the Cradle.
That's such a
Oh,
good one.
Morning. Oh, I love those two. Thank you, Deb.
Those are fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, you can almost sing them. Yeah. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Great. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
will
you
be
for
entered
that.
in. Thank you so much. Those are great. Those are great for the playlist. We also
Yeah.
have a couple members who knew they wanted to be here, but they couldn't tonight. So they did tell me in advance. Elaine Sapp, she
Yeah.
loves What a Wonderful World.
Yeah.
That's another good one, another classic. And Lisa Wetzel, which, you know what, I'm trying to think now. I think it's Wetzel. I've talked to her so much in the book club, but I see her name written, so I
Yeah.
think I'm pronouncing it correctly. Brown Eyed Girl, another good one.
Ooh. That's a really upbeat song, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's like you said, you hear the title and I can hear it in my head.
Yeah, you almost want to dance. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good
Very
start.
good. Yeah, well, it would be good if we could get, well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we've got 6 songs already. So if we can get like a dozen or more, it would be great, So, I mean, and you know what? We could come back post like around Christmas and get some more and add to it.
I love that idea.
It's just not stagnant. So
that is so fun.
we can keep building on it. So
I love it.
Periodically. Yeah. Terrific.
What do you think? You ready for some questions?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Go for it, Heather.
All right, I've got a bunch for you. And again, Deb, anytime if you want to add some questions in the chat or anything, please do. I'd love to see what you have to say or any questions you have for Valerie. So my first one is, why did you write this particular story?
The combination of the two, I guess, is because it is a series. I've been doing a lot of thinking about that, and I realized that I really began to think about my ability to write a novel, and my desire, I guess, is more like it. Back in 2002, I read Jennifer Weiner's Good in Bed, and after I read it, I sat there and said, I can do this. I can write like this. And so I started really thinking about it, and I had come up with a little bit of the story. But the reason that I wrote this story is because I believe that there are millions of women in this country, 85 million mature women, as a matter of fact, who are looking for stories they can relate to. So these are the women that really put Bridget Jones's Diary on the map. Okay. But they're older now, and, they're looking for characters that they can relate to. And there were really several themes, but in What's Not Said, I think there was a predominant theme about emotional abuse. And then as we got into What's Not True, I think it was more about wanting to have it all. It's kind of the superwoman type of thing. I can have my career, and I can have the love of my life. Okay. And can we have it all? So those are the stories that I really wanted to tell. And I hope that I've achieved that in both of them.
That's fantastic. And you know what? That kind of storyline and helping people connect and feel like they have that to connect with, that's such a strong thing to give people to. I really love that that's what's behind your stories. And it really does come through in the stories.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's awesome that you put it out there for people. And I see that Deb in the chat, she added Running on Empty, Jackson Brown.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? I have to admit, I don't know if I know that one.
Oh, if you heard it, you would know it.
One of those where,
Absolutely.
I would recognize it. She has a couple questions for you
I
too.
see that.
So, any mentors to your authorship early on is her first one. Another question too.
So going back to 2002, I was living in Boston, and I went to a long weekend, a writing conference. It was like 4 days, and there were like 12 of us in the class. And at the end of the day on Sunday, 3 of us decided to get together to continue on and have our own little writing group. Even though we lived in Boston far apart from each other, there's a lot of traffic, I remember getting through. But one was a fellow who, he's gay, and he worked at Fidelity, and he was writing, and of course, and then the other gal was a minister, and me. And so we had such a good time together. So they really gave me a lot of inspiration, I guess. And what's really cool is that I don't know what year it was, because I moved to Seattle in 2006. So we went on for a few years, but at whatever point Massachusetts legalized gay marriage, the gal who was the minister actually married the other fellow and his partner. So it was just like kismet, it was just great. And so I would say that they, from a mentor, I don't know if mentor is the right word, but certainly inspiration was that little group that we had.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. I love that story. Deb, thank you for that question, because that was really awesome. And then she also has Deb has plotter or pantser.
So for What's Not Said, I was a pantser. And for What's Not True, I was more of a plotter. So that's kind of weird, right? But it's because when I wrote What's Not Said, I knew what the ending was going to be. And so I created my characters, and I let them take me through the journey to the end. And then with What's Not True, I got to the end of What's Not Said, and when I gave it to some of my friends to read, they came back to me and said, "This is great, but what's next? What's going to happen with Cassie and Chris?" And I was like, "You've got to be kidding." I just wrote this whole book, and now you want another one? And so they said, "Yeah, we do." And so I sat down literally with a piece of paper, just a notepad, and I bulleted out. I should see if I still have it, but I bulleted out what a plot could be to carry the story forward, because I didn't write the first book thinking that I was going to carry it through. And now in reflection, I wonder, had I known that, how would it have changed the first story at all? So think of that, and then imagine that when I was writing What's Not True, I was like, so there's going to be a third. And what did I do in What's Not True that's going to help me write the third book? So it's kind of a weird thing for me anyway.
I love what it's turned into, though. Like, I'm so glad that you've carried on the story. And book 2 was, so exciting. Sometimes there are sequels and it's like, oh, I really still love the first one the best. But I was like, I love the second one almost more. Like, this was amazing, carrying on the story.
Well, that's a great question, and I'd love for Deb to weigh in too if you have read both books, Deb. So Heather, which one did you like better?
I
Do you have
actually,
a
I
pick?
mean, I loved the first one. And then when I read
Right.
the second one, I'm like, oh my God, somehow it's even better. Like, I really loved the
Yeah.
second one even more. And I don't know if
Yeah.
having the bases, she says,
Oh, so
Deb says new to you. So
oh wow.
thank you again
So
for being here, Deb. That's awesome.
yeah. So Deb, have you read either of them?
Might not have, if
No.
I did too, so probably not.
No. Okay. So um Deb, for your courage and your participation, I would like to give away your preference, either an ebook or a print book of What's Not Said to get you into the series. So if you could, I'll give you my email. If you have a pen, it's Val, VALM, Taylor, TAYLOR, at gmail.com. Just email me and tell me, if you want a print copy, give me your address. If it's an ebook, I can do it right to your email. So I'd like to do that.
Valerie, you are so fantastic.
Oh,
Thank you
well,
so
that's,
much for doing that for Deb. And Deb, congratulations.
yay.
It's such a great book. I hope you enjoy the read as much as I did. It's fantastic, both of them, when you get to read both. Oh, email again
Oh, okay.
and print
Yeah.
book. Yep.
So why don't I just put it in the chat?
Perfect.
Oh, let's see if I can do that. I have to lean over my desk.
Oh, the many
Whoop.
ways we use our technology.
I know. I
No.
know.
There we go.
There.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay.
Congratulations. So let's see. I have plenty more questions. And again, Deb, if you have any more, feel free to put them in as we go. Because we started kind of talking about some I had.
Yeah. 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 You can skip whatever.
Yeah, I'll skip down through. So you have, I love that you do the quotes. You do places
My
in your
quotes.
books, you do quotes. Could you tell us about the 4 quotes that you have at the front of What's Not True? And how did you choose to include them?
Sure. So that's a really good point, Heather, about the quotes, because in What's Not Said, there is a quote by it's Emily Dickinson, right? There's an Emily Dickinson quote that I actually had to get approval from Harvard University Press to use in that book. And so when I was doing What's Not True, I was like, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to use quotes that are available in the public domain. So I did some research. Goodreads is a wonderful resource for quotes. You can type in any topic and they just give you a bazillion quotes. And so I think I was typing in truth and facts and stuff like that. And I was reading all these wonderful quotes and I couldn't decide on one. And the way that I picked them out, I felt was like a progression almost of the story. So can I read them? Is that okay?
Oh yeah, I would love that.
So the first one is, facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. And after you read What's Not True, that's really the story, right? And so that was by Aldous Huxley. And then everybody knows Henry David Thoreau, who said, truths and roses have thorns about them. Gee, there's some thorniness going on in What's Not True. And Soren Kierkegaard, because I think, we need some philosophical thoughts here. There are 2 ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is true. And again, that really mirrors, I think, the whole plot in the story. And then, of course, my favorite is Elvis Presley. Truth is like the sun. You can shut it out for a time, but it ain't going away. And again, that works with the story. And when I submitted this to my publisher, they weren't concerned about the number of quotes, but they didn't think I should include Elvis Presley. And I was like, you've got to be kidding. I mean, that is like so me. You know, you talk about music. I mean, I grew up with Elvis. And so, you know, to have an Elvis Presley quote in my book and have it be, because it's almost like the voice and the tone of my stories is a little bit snarky, a lot upbeat and everything. And so I love the progression of the quotes, and to end it with Elvis was, and in the book, I can't remember in What's Not True if I have other quotations that I use. But again, I wanted to make sure I didn't get myself in an almost fix like I did with What's Not Said, because I really wanted that Emily Dickinson quote and I almost didn't have it. So I got it.
Yeah, that's a lot behind the scenes to think of, you know, what you can't include like easily or with, you know, without permission.
Right.
So I find that really interesting. And I'm so glad that you were able to make it happen, that you still have your Elvis Presley quote in there.
Yeah. I was like, I want my quote.
Yeah,
So.
it is. It's very like, it personalizes what you're doing. So I'm glad that it's there.
Yeah. It's almost like, you know, you have a couple of the characters in the story, whether it's Michael or Chris or Cecilia, right? The gal who's in college, and you know, you can almost see them reacting or, you know, wearing those quotes on a t-shirt, and then having Cassie come in with the Elvis one on her t-shirt, right?
Or bad Cassie, maybe she
Or
did.
a bad Cassie,
Bad
right?
Cassie that day.
Bad Cassie, right?
I love it. I would love to know too, seeing you went, you know, you weren't thinking about doing a book 2 when you did book 1. How was the publication process going from book 1 and not expecting to do book 2? Were there a lot of differences or things that you found were changes?
It was much, in some ways, it was much easier for the second book. Of course, it's with the same publisher, She Writes Press. So it was almost like having a second child. You know, the first one, all that anticipation, all that anxiety and fear, and not knowing what to expect or how to react, how to take care of that baby. You know, we stay up all night with the child and, you know, make sure that they're never wet and all that. So then with the second book, it's kind of like, oh, so they have a wet diaper? That's okay. No. So I think that certainly it was a lot easier. I probably asked the publisher different types of questions that, you know, I know I drove them crazy with the first book. And so it was a lot. I think they enjoyed me more than the second book than the first. But, you know, and we might talk about it, but it, you know, this whole pandemic, you know, has really turned authoring upside down, because I mean, I was supposed to do a book fest in Boston in October, and I just heard yesterday that it's been canceled. You know, so social media has become, you know, so important, and I had no social media presence for book 1. So that's all part of the process. So for this one, I was able to kind of get ahead of the game before launch and leading up to it, and I put on a big push, as you know, Heather, for promoting What's Not Said, starting back in May, actually, because they say that when you write a series, the second book pulls the first one along. Okay, so you have people buying the first book, but then when they see you have a second book, now some people have read the second book without reading the first book, and honestly, some people are fine with that. I feel like that my first 12 pages, I try to kind of lay out the different characters and what the dilemma is. But some people needed more than that. And so some people have said they've gone back to read What's Not Said because they didn't. And so, what I want to say to everyone who's watching is, if you're going to watch a TV series, you don't necessarily start with season 2. Okay, you start with season 1, episode 1, right? Well, What's Not Said is season 1. What's Not Said, What's Not True is season 2. And so I encourage people to read it in the series in which it was written.
As a reader, I can definitely agree with that as well, because I forget exactly how I worded it in my reviews, but when I started writing your second one, I'm like, I felt like I was greeting old friends. Like, I liked knowing their story beforehand. It really does help seeing where she starts in the second one, where everyone starts in the second.
Multiple people have said that. In fact, I've got some quotes sitting around here on my desk somewhere, but they say it's like meeting old friends for coffee or a martini, someone said, so that's kind of cool. I like that.
And I love the way you have kind of a new villain, and it made me almost feel more protective of the previous villain. It was very interesting the way you wrote it. I really love that.
And I've had a number of people say that where they start out with one opinion of the characters, and then as the story evolves, they switch their opinions of the characters, and then so that's good. I love hearing the good reviews.
Yeah,
because a lot of times people will point out things that I didn't necessarily realize I was doing in the story, and so that's very rewarding.
Yeah, it's neat when a reader, I think every reader kind of reads between the lines a little bit, and it kind of starts to match up their experience with the read, matches up with their own lives too. So I bet any review that comes back to you, you kind of get that experience in there to see how it translated to other people.
Right.
I actually, oh my gosh, I was looking at your blog the other day.
Oh dear.
And I want to say it was from, I think you posted your last one in August. Is that?
I'm trying to get it brought up to date. I have a lot of things.
But that's okay. Post. Yeah, you do. You do so much. But I loved what I was reading, because you wrote about the 5 things that a side character does, and then you had written about a reviewer said they were kind of upset that the cat wasn't in the second book as much, and I thought that was so awesome, and they were encouraging you to write a book about the cat.
The cat. Yeah, and that was a really prominent reviewer too, who had reviewed What's Not Said, and then she picked up and reviewed the second one, and when she just made me laugh when she said that, and that she was really disappointed that Topher really only had a cameo appearance, and so rest assured, viewers. Before she even wrote that review, I've got about 25% of the next book written, and the first chapter, Topher has a prominent role, and it's just coincidence. It has nothing to do with what she said. but
That works out well. That's good
yeah,
then.
yeah.
She'll
It's like,
yeah,
oh, thank goodness I
over
did
back.
that.
I loved reading that. I was laughing out loud. I'm like, that's so
Yeah,
cool that the cat connected with that reader that way.
yeah,
Like back
yeah,
to what you
yeah.
were saying, and we were talking
You
about,
never know.
yeah, what's really going to
You never
strike a
know.
reader.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it. Um, oh, so I wanted to ask, why Paris? You're so well traveled, and
Oh,
I love the places that you put in your book. So what made you lean towards Paris this time around?
well, why not Paris, right? I'm not as well traveled as I might sound. I would love to be even more. I think all of us would right now. Um, I didn't want, obviously Venice had a major role in What's Not Said, even though it wasn't, it was really one main chapter, I think. And yet I wanted to move the story somewhere else. And very coincidentally, from the timeline, the years, and I should write the years down so I have them top of mind. But so it's July of whatever 2018 or 19, when the World Cup, France won the World Cup soccer, right? That whatever year that was. And also it's at the time of Bastille Day. So the kind of the two events were occurring at the time that I was centering the story. And so it was like it handed itself to me on a silver platter, because I mean it's not a huge part. The timing isn't a huge part, but it helped me round out the story a little bit. And I have been to Paris once, I guess. And I mean it's such a memorable and beautiful city that and it's for lovers. And so I thought that was a good thing. And I really loved and while Venice is a slice in What's Not Said, Paris takes on more of the story and What's Not True. Don't you think, Heather?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's funny that I did it. Of course, I didn't plan it, right? Because Venice is where my heart is. So you would have thought that I would have written a book all about Venice, and I still might. But yeah, so back to the cat. Someone else said, there in What's Not Said, there's a chapter devoted to her mother, Patricia. And someone recently, I think just last week, said that I need to write a book about her mother. I was like, okay, I think maybe I will do that. So, and they also a lot of people love her best friend, Annie. And they wanted more about Annie. And so that probably will be in book 3, I think. So
That's such a
anyway.
great compliment too. I love that all the readers are reaching out, and I mean, I know I'm one of them. I would read everything you put out about these characters. So I love that people are saying, I want more of this character and this, and that way you could always come back and write more, if you're
Right,
going back and
right.
publishing projects, and that it's
Yeah,
the world people want to be in. I love that. And to go back to Venice a little bit too, I also really love, if I don't remember if I've mentioned it or not this time around, but you also have the book club discussion guides in your books too. You have
yes.
really cool extras. And I want to say one of the first discussion guide questions that you have in the second book is, should she have stayed in Venice?
Oh,
And I love that
yeah,
you also have the readers, give that suggestion to think about that too, which is something maybe as you were writing it, you might have thought about too, seeing you do love Venice so much. It made me
that's
wonder
right.
when I was looking at that.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
cool. Is that kind of her
yeah,
own struggle too,
yeah, yeah,
writing?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
should we stay in Venice? Should we?
Should we stay in Venice?
So I wanted to make sure I bring that up too, because I love that you're so involved with book clubs,
Yeah,
and think of them and put that in books. I think that's
right,
fantastic.
right.
Oh,
Well,
and
that was with the kind of going full circle here, my idea for putting the playlist. So one of my sister authors had posted a playlist for her book after it was published, and I was still getting my manuscript together for What's Not Said, and I was like, this is my book. I can put a playlist in my book. I don't have to wait till after. And of course, the publisher allowed me to do that, and so that's why, it's in there. And also, when I wrote What's Not Said, obviously I didn't have that in my mind, but I have had people say that they love listening to the playlist while they're reading What's Not Said in particular, because it kind of goes along with the story. And so then when I did What's Not True, there are, I think, some references to different songs in the story. So, but I don't want things to be forced. I think that's a challenge of writing a series, is that, once your characters are established and you kind of know the long line of the plot, I don't want it to be forced. I want it to feel more natural. So I don't want to put a song in just to put a song in.
Right. Yeah, the way you did it, I felt like it felt very organic, like everything flows very nicely.
Right.
So I love it. And that when we were talking about like Paris and Venice, it made me think about, I love all of the French words you have in the same book. I think I put that in my review too, because I started thinking back to like French class in high school, which is much further back now than I realized when I started thinking about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a little rusty, but I recognize some of these words, and it felt so cool to kind of hear the pronunciation in my head. Do you know a little bit of French, or was that?
I took 3 years of French many, many, many years ago, and I took 2 years of Italian. So there's a little Italian in the first book. But you know what happened? So I thought I did a good job when I drafted What's Not True with all the French words. And then it went through proofreading. And of course, the editor, proofreader, was an expert on French. And she, changed quite a few things. Corrected, I'll say that. She didn't change them. She corrected my French. And I was kind of insulted. I was like, oh, I thought I did really well. And I guess I didn't. So, c'est la vie.
Well, you have to have a good base to have a correction, right? That's all part of editing.
Right,
so You got that good base there. It's okay. Yeah. I love that you went ahead and included it though, because it made it feel more realistic. And there was like this extra bonus. Like I was going through like, oh, I remember what that means. Yeah. I got so excited. Yeah. And Deb popped up another comment.
Oh, good.
Of Carole King, So Far Away. I Feel the Earth are a couple of songs that come to mind.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love Carole King. I saw her now many years ago when I was living in Boston. Yeah, she's one of my faves.
Aww. Yeah, I love those additions. Thank you, Deb. That's awesome. And so Deb, you're thinking of that while you're hearing more about the story. It's like connecting for you. And is that what you're saying? I love that. That's so cool.
Those songs actually work.
Yeah, that's so cool. All right, let me see. I know we've covered a lot, so let me see what I have here for more. I know I had a gazillion, and we're about 10 minutes from 8, so I don't want to run too late on you guys. Did you enjoy writing one or two more over the other at all?
So I think because I thought What's Not Said was going to be a standalone, as I wrote it, I mean, they say that authors don't love their first book. I love my first book, and it was such a joy to write it and to have it emerge from me, something, a goal that I've really had, even though I said 2002 was kind of when I decided I really needed to do it. I've always felt I'm one of these people that feels, that I did have a book in me. I didn't know what it was going to be, but so I think I got a lot of joy from it. And then with What's Not True, I think I really had a sense of accomplishment, in that I could take it. I think I grew in writing the second book. I think that my writing style is still the same. Heather, you would know. I mean, there wasn't a big departure, I don't think, in my writing
No,
style.
I mean, you have a great writing style, and it definitely felt very consistent between the two books.
And so I was able to do it was a big accomplishment for me. And I feel that, well, I remember I was about halfway through it when I said, through What's Not True, I was like, I really love this book too. So I really want that feeling for book 3, and that's probably why I'm not rushing it. I know, there are a lot of prolific writers out there that write 1 or 2 books a year. I can't do that. And because I have a life, and I want book 3 to be as good as 1 and 2. And I don't want people to just, because as you were saying earlier, Heather, a lot of times people, they love the first one. It's like a movie. Well, the first movie was good. The second one wasn't as good. Well, I'm hoping that Said and True are equal. And I want the third one to be as good. I want people leave it with a bang.
I love you're putting that thought and time into it.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially maybe knowing now that it became a trilogy and then having to wrap it up, like I feel like that's kind of a roller coaster of emotion for you as a writer too, to not even think of it being a trilogy, and then now you have all this storyline you've put so much into adding, and now you have to find a way to end it. So I
Right.
can imagine that's a lot.
Right.
That's a lot on your shoulders. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're taking that time to be completely happy with what you're doing.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ooh, I also wanted to know, in What's Not Said, Mike is the antagonist. So we were kind of talking about how there's different villains, and then in
Right.
What's Not True, Karen is.
Yeah.
So how different was it to write a female villain versus a male villain?
I think it was easier because we all have different sides of ourselves. And so when Karen was at her nastiest, it was probably me at my nastiest. Yeah, I think a female villain is for me anyway. Because in my life, I haven't had a lot of male models, and I'm looking, you guys can't see it, but where I'm sitting, there's a reflection of a photograph of my father in his Navy uniform. And here I'm saying I didn't have many male models, but he died when I was young. So Mike, as the antagonist in What's Not Said, I was married twice, so I had all that experience. And I think that as women, we have had really good friends in our lives, and some of them, remained friends for a long time. And sometimes we came up to friends that really weren't friends, right? Or they were bullies, or they just kind of got in the way of our life. And so I think that that's kind of real too. So, And so someone made the comment, because her name is Karen, and there's a lot of, and I don't even follow the politics of that, but apparently the name Karen has taken on some negative
Oh, yeah.
connotation over the last year and a half or whatever. And someone asked me about that, and I was like, no, I had written that before the pandemic, so it had nothing to do with anything political or whatever. So,
Kind of coincidence that
yeah.
came
Well,
up. I didn't
actually,
think about that.
it had the initials KR. Okay, so Cassie Ritchie, Cassandra O'Callahan Ritchie, KR, and yeah. So I needed the K in my story, right? Karen Cooperman, whatever her name is, but I needed the initials, and so that's why the K came to be. Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. I feel like it's funny. I mean, not to go with like the connotation, but like when you start to get to know the characters, like the names fit, like it's not in any kind of way, but like that, but it's kind of, sometimes I'll read a book and I'm like, okay, that name's a little out there.
Oh, I
Like it's
know.
hard to
I'm reading
follow.
a book now, and in the name, and there's a couple of names that I'm not really too. I won't mention the book, but the names don't necessarily fit. So
Yeah, and I'm a big, like, I think in our first interview, I love every book I read. I love to research what the names mean, and
oh
like
yeah, you
I'll look
did,
it up.
right?
Yeah, that's like my thing. Like I love researching while I'm reading. I'm really weird. I'll be like,
Yeah,
oh, let's learn more about Venice. Like I did that with.
right. Yeah.
I love it. I love that. So I do that a lot with names. So in names, like I'll look up a meaning, and if it doesn't quite fit, I'm like, like it kind of skews
Eh,
my mind, which is awful because it
yeah.
shouldn't be like that.
Right.
But it does
Right.
for me. But your names in your books fit for me. I love that. Oh gosh, I had a gazillion questions, and we've got to talk about so many wonderful things.
Yeah.
Let me see if I have. I think my last question, and then Deb, if you have any more, please pop it in. If you could do it all over again, would you write a series, and are you considering writing any more series?
Mm-hmm. If you had asked me this probably 6 months ago, I would have said, oh, why did I do this? Why did I write a series? Because it's really hard from the standpoint of producing it and getting it out, and marketing it, and really encouraging people, as we were saying earlier, to read the first book. Don't ignore it. Don't read what's not true and be annoyed because you don't really know the motivation and the characters and everything. For less than $10, you can get the ebook of what's not true, and I mean what's not said, and really have it all. But now, because of the reaction of people to what's not true, and to a person that has read it, they want the third. So that kind of validates for me that I'm doing the right thing. And so I'm hoping to close out the What's Not series. It's taking on its own kind of brand right now, called the What's Not series. Oh, and there's Gemma. Hi. And what I want to do is there's a secondary, you talk about the sidekicks and the secondary characters. There's a secondary character that's going to be in the third book that I want to spin off into a cozy mystery series. Ooh. Yeah, that's what I want to do. So with that in mind, as I'm writing the third book, I can start laying some breadcrumbs, and it's a female, and her character, so that it'll be a logical spin-off. So it's kind of tricky, but it's challenging.
I think that's going to be amazing. I don't think I've ever seen somebody do that before, where they're taking a character from one series and then going into another genre with another character. I think that's going to be amazing.
Yeah, if I can pull it off, it will be an accomplishment.
You can do it.
I can do it.
You can do it.
I
And I
can
mean,
do
we've been
it.
talking a lot about your publishing journey. I mean, you've been doing this right along straight through from a pandemic too. So, I mean, you've had
Yeah.
a lot of extra on you, and I think you're doing just a fantastic job with everything. I love reading your work.
Thank you.
I love you know what you're doing. And I don't,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't know how you keep up with it. You're so busy and doing so many things.
Well, so
But
are
you do
you,
well.
and I'm sure Deb is too.
Yes,
So I think we're certainly at the top of the hour.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's been so much fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Deb, for being here and your great questions. And do email me, and I will get a print copy of What's Not Said on its way to you. And Heather, thank you so much for this. And you'll let the club members know that we want their song titles.
Yes. So this will post on my YouTube channel
Okay.
probably sometime tomorrow. It just takes a while for the video to load. But that'll post, and then I'll also write a post to let people know they can still add to the music. And like you're saying, thank you so much for being here, Deb, and your awesome song editions. I love them. It's like I can hear each one of them in my head almost, the one that I didn't know, but I'm going to look up. The one that we mentioned today that I didn't, I'll look up. That you said I would know when I heard it. But so I'm
so you can see my granddaughter. She just put a note on the door and ran away.
It's probably Gemma's probably checking in like, oh, it's been an hour, like that.
Right. She's like, it's time for ice cream or something.
Ooh, there we go. That's going to be a good note if that's what that says.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I had so much fun. Please keep posting updates in our group.
Oh, I
will.
How,
when book 3 will be coming out and everything, how you're doing. And
yeah,
Deb, I'd love to know updates, how the read is going when you get the book too.
Great. And I just committed to the publisher to do the 3rd book just Monday, actually. So
yay. And congratulations on that, and congratulations on your
Thank you.
launch for book 2. This is fantastic.
I totally appreciate it. Love you.
Oh, love you too. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.